hear anything we're saying. The music is playing.
Is it? That's good.
Should be. We're only gonna play a little bit of it because we're late. Trying to get all this crap.
What are we talking about today?
It's self-love. What can you do for yourself? We're gonna go back to that list we have.
Okay.
I'll pull it up.
Okay. Ouch. Oh my God. This pen, we need it better. Is the mic working? Oh, I can hear my mic.
Mic is on. We are on. We are
That's
live.
That's the first time it's been on and up and ready to go. Like, ooh, that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, that's a little. That's fun. Oh, my neck.
Shut up. Hey everybody. Okay, well I'm gonna end that one now if I can get it to go away.
Uh-oh.
Like it just wants to keep going.
We're learning.
Well, I mean, like this is a new setup.
Yeah.
So we have a new setup here, and we will see how it works.
Yeah.
We have a whole new setup. If you can see right here, we have a teleprompter for chats. It's not for, we are not scripted.
No,
all.
yeah.
Yeah. I wish we were that good that we could be self-scripted, but yeah, no.
We never know what's going to fly out of our mouth.
No, you have no idea what we're going to say.
It's a surprise to us too.
Hopefully it's something that's not punishable.
Yeah. Whoopsie, that came out wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Well, I have a tendency sometimes to say,
I'm just awkward and the things are not ever meant the way they're supposed to be. So
yeah, sometimes I say something and I'm like,
well,
I didn't mean it like that.
And I think the worst about that is how many years later I will think about it in the middle of the night. Randomly.
I do that. I do that all the time, and I go like, "Ooh, that was bad. I guess I probably shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that." And
have you ever been stupid enough to go back and try to apologize for doing that like 10 years later?
Or even a minute later,
right?
They're like,
"Oh, that's not what I meant."
Okay, I have been in the situation too where I pointed out something that I did and I went to apologize for it. And they were like,
I didn't notice.
I didn't think it was a problem. Like,
yeah.
Now they're like, oh, now that you mention it,
because I feel like that's a woman thing. Like,
I think it's way more of a woman thing.
Yeah.
But I think
I think it's our training. The way we grow, everybody tells us we do things wrong all the time. So then we find ways.
So we're kind of used to that.
Yeah. We're finding ways to prove them right. Right. Like, okay, the whole time we grew up, everybody was like, be quieter. Don't say
don't brag
much.
about yourself.
Don't do this. Yeah. Don't
draw
do
attention.
this.
Don't do that. Don't
so
do
then
this. Don't
you're
do
like,
that.
oh yeah, I totally did that.
Yeah.
And then like, whoops.
I think that is something that we don't really realize that we do. And sometimes there's not a problem. And then you bring up the problem.
And then
they're like, oh, wait, yeah, that did bother me.
Right.
Or, oh, you are an asshole. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. I forgot you were
for reminding me I'm mad at you, and I have been for 10 years.
Yeah. So
I did not need that.
It's a difficult thing because you have to keep yourself in check.
Yeah.
But how do you keep yourself in check without somebody pointing it out or yourself pointing it out?
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Like, I don't even know how exactly you do that.
If I knew that, oh my God. Do you know how many world problems we could solve if we knew the answer to that question?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I admire all the people who can just compose themselves. Anyone who has ever been a speaker and answered questions in front of large audiences
can relate.
Is amazing to me, because like I would come up with an answer before I thought about the answer, and then I know that about myself, that I would want to answer it without thinking about it, and that would probably not be the right thing to do in most cases. And I need
and sometimes you're coming up with the answer while they're in the midst of the conversation, and it's not even going the direction that you have in your head.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the guy that was in my paramedic program, that he was that know-it-all.
Right.
He always had to be the one to answer. He always had to be the one. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Right.
I know.
And then I know. The answer.
And he would like not have the answer, or he would be completely wrong. Like, for instance, what does it mean when your pupils are dilated?
Right. And
okay, there's
dilated.
And there's a couple of things it could be.
Right.
It could be drugs.
Right.
It could be you just suddenly walked into the sun.
Yep.
And it could be that you have had a head injury. So the entirety of the question was geared around a accident.
Right.
So you would probably go
your head.
more clear with they were in a vehicle accident and you're doing an evaluation and their pupils are dilated.
Yeah.
And he's like coming out of his seat unglued. I have the answer. So, and the whole class was like, don't let him answer. He's always wrong. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Yeah. And so he gets called on by our professor. And I think our professor liked to do it because he was an idiot.
Yeah.
And he always,
it's fun.
If you heard that saying, it's better to be thought a fool than open your mouth and leave no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, that was him. Yeah. It was always, we already knew though. There was no doubt.
Right.
And so he calls on him. He's like, you're about to deliver. And he's like, deliver what? And he's like, give birth. And he's like, your pupils. What does that have to do with childbirth? Like, is she straining so hard her eyes are about to pop out of her? What do you got going on here?
Where is that coming
from? It was definitely an interesting.
He kept y'all on your toes with his idiocracy.
Yeah. He was definitely one to question for sure.
Yeah.
And we didn't know like what his intent was. And if you see me turning, guys, I'm just actually trying to pull stuff on the computer.
Fun.
But he was the person who, no matter what it was. Oh, shut up. He was absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
He was the person who made a point that everything had to be him.
Right.
And there are a lot of people like that in all different realms. I personally think half of our media is that way.
Yeah.
You know, they want to be right, and they will spew out information just so that they can be heard, and they don't evaluate whether it's actually truthful or good or real or right or wrong. They don't care. They just out their mouth really quick because they want to be the first.
Yeah.
And we've gotten rid of the whole let's go to let's go. I don't know why it keeps showing my old video. Maybe I'm not live on Facebook. I don't know. Because it is not popping up there. So I don't know.
Okay.
I will figure that out. But I am trying to figure this out while we're talking. It doesn't help when you're trying to do something while talking. But it's okay. I'll figure it out. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of people that will say stuff that they don't think it through. And
yeah, I really admire those people that can take the time and say, I need to do some research on that, or I mean,
even our president is that way. I love him to death. I really do. But sometimes I'm like, did you really just say that?
Right. Yeah.
Like did you
have to have the answer right this second?
Or did you not think that answer through? You sound like an asshole.
Right.
You sound like an idiot.
Right.
You know, or what? He doesn't ever really sound like an idiot because he is very smart.
Right.
He sounds like an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, did you have to say that
way or at that time and that answer? Yeah.
Well, especially my favorite one is when he says, I was told don't do this.
Yeah.
By my wife, or my staff said don't do this. But I'm doing it anyway because I like it. And I'm like, now sometimes I'm like, he was right. They were wrong. Sometimes I'm like, you need to listen to them. You know, I mean, like they do know
there was a reason for that.
They do know what they're talking about. So anyway, I'm Tori. I am the host of Girl Talks. And we are here to bring all the things. We're going to talk about mental health and sobriety, addiction, with some levity, as well as all sorts of other things. Like there's no topic off limits, and we're not strictly only for one thing. But the whole picture, in my opinion, everything out there has to do with our mental health.
Yes.
Everything.
Everything can be related.
Everything can be
is a response to something connected to your history.
And most everything is going to make you it can make you crazy or it can make you sane.
Yeah.
I guess is the way I'm looking at it. Is so there is so many aspects, and everything I think is another line back to mental health, whether it's good mental health or poor mental health or really bad mental health, which is the one that I think starts gearing you towards addictions and really bad behaviors.
Yeah.
But just poor mental health isn't necessarily going to lead you to that path, but poor mental health is a fork in the road towards that next bad thing. So if you want to have good and positive mental health, it's a work. It's a work in progress.
Self-reflection and being brutally honest with yourself and accepting criticisms and acknowledging past history and all the things and where you could have changed things or grown a little bit and gone from there, which is really hard to do.
And you're not going to get there from okay. I don't know how many times I need to turn the volume off on that one, but I'm going to leave this here until there is comments. Once there is comments, then I can move it over here.
Perfect.
But there's no comments right now, so there's no need to have it here.
We know we have sound.
But we do have, we know it. We know it's working now.
We proved
Well,
it.
I kept
right
pulling
now.
it up, but it was yesterday when Steve and I did a test,
Oh no.
which makes no sense because I deleted it.
Uh-oh.
Like it shouldn't be coming up at all.
Whoopsie.
So anyway, for self-love February, that's
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're talking about acts of self-love. So this is funny. I have to take my glasses off to look at this one because I can't really read it. Taking time.
There you go.
There you go. Taking time to show yourself love is the healthiest and most important thing you can do for yourself
Yeah.
and your relationships with others.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
examples of self-love, physical self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit more into each one of these as we go. Emotional self-care. Now, we talked a little bit about these things last week on Friday.
Yeah.
But we went more into what is self-love.
Yeah.
And now we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into acts of self-love.
Yeah.
Physical self-care, emotional self-care, social self-care, and the mental self-care and spiritual self-care.
Yep.
So what we're going to dive into today is physical and emotional. We may not get through both of them, but let's start with the physical self-care.
All right.
Exercising regularly.
That is extremely important.
And there are people with physical limitations like
Yes.
myself. So you can find things that you can do that
That match
your
where you're
physical
at. Yes.
capabilities.
Yep.
Like you don't have to do things that are so far beyond your
Don't
like,
start at running 10 miles a day when you haven't run in 20 years.
Yeah. But also, like you were saying to the other day, is don't spend all your time researching the shoes
Yes.
when you need to just go out and run.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
I mean, like finding the shoes is great.
Yes.
But if you have, if that's all you do, it's kind of like doing a YouTube channel in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, like for a lot of people.
Oh my gosh, you don't know. It's really overwhelming and scary. I don't know. Well, obviously you've done all the research, but I think most people want to create something. And I think I've said this to you in the past about how like people have said you should do something, you know, do a TikTok or whatever. And I'm like, my life isn't that interesting.
Right.
Like it's just not. That's period.
Well,
It's
we
a
think
very
about
blank-
that from that perspective, but at the same time, like, do we think about what other people might hear from us that they want to hear?
Right.
Like, what do
And
we
how
have to
would you say
contribute?
that? How would you portray it?
Right.
And how would you and to do it correctly, you have to do research. But then, like,
Right.
how do you?
But then
How do you juggle the things to make the things?
But then if you do
the
too
thing?
much research, you'll never start.
Exactly,
Like it
'cause
does
it's
become
scary.
very and it becomes
Yeah.
very overwhelming.
It's a
I mean,
lot.
I cannot tell you how many YouTube things are out there about how to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things out there about how to start a YouTube
Oh, yeah.
channel. And my favorite ones, if you are interested in learning something about it, Think Media does a lot of really great instructional things.
Okay.
But they also are very much about just start.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to.
Your first ones are never going to be pretty.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
start and get it going, and then you can fix
You'll
it as
learn
you
your
go. You
mistakes.
can learn your mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, if you can see,
We've rearranged things.
our studio setup is a little different.
Yeah.
As you can see, I am still at my desk. But Christy is at her desk
Yeah.
next to me. We're not across the bloody room from each other. And we have cameras set up so we can see both of us at the same time. We have the teleprompter finally working.
Yeah.
I mean, that's money that was
Oh,
just
yeah.
sitting here.
Yeah.
Now I also, my husband and I, we don't really do much half-ass.
Right.
We like go all in. Now, of course, like if you come into our studio, there's a lot of we probably have like 20 cameras.
Right.
We have 4 on here.
Right.
But this was for a full production stuff that we had, and that, we're not doing all of that now, but we have cameras to set up for the living room sitting, for people, and we will get that set up going when we need to. But, it is a lot of money.
Yes.
It's a lot of work, but it's been a lot of progress, and we didn't just go like, hey, Christy, let's do a show. And we ran out and bought $100,000 worth of equipment.
Right. It took time.
It took time. But what I would tell people, if this is something they want to do, and it is good, it is very good for your mental health because you talk a lot of things through. And if we're going to have a heavy conversation that day, Christy and I tend to talk it out with each other first.
Yeah.
And say, hey, what do you think about this?
How can we say it without making the other person have a mental breakdown?
Right. and
what do we cover?
And sometimes we have to get those cries out before we actually do the show, because I will tell you, I will be a blubbering idiot.
Right.
And I don't want to be a blubbering idiot. So I try to make sure that I'm not coming up with something at the last minute. Like, I know we're going to have this heavy conversation. I know we're going to have this heavy talk. So I want to make sure that we're prepared.
Yeah.
And when I say prepared, I mean like mentally prepared.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to be prepared and not mentally prepared.
Yeah.
And if you just go into it without the preparation you need, and you could find yourself in a very crybaby situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Okay, there. I was trying to figure out where I put that part, but I didn't know. It's whatever.
It's a play.
So
it's a game.
When it comes to your self-love and how to do self-care, that's part of your self-love, is you have to care about yourself.
Yes. So we start with the physical exercise, start with a good routine helps.
Yeah.
Because then you can kind of establish where that exercise would fit in. And help you figure out like where you're not finding the time for yourself, because it's really easy for a person to say, I just don't have time.
That is such an easy excuse / argument.
Yes.
Because it can be an excuse, but it can be legitimate too.
Right. Okay.
Like, how much time do you have?
Right.
But you do have to be brutally honest with yourself.
Exactly.
Is that an excuse or a legitimate argument? Because exercise doesn't mean you have to go run a marathon.
Right.
Exercise doesn't mean you have to go and buy a bunch of lift equipment, and you're gonna, you don't have to do all that.
Right.
Exercise can start with 5 minutes.
Yes. Absolutely.
It can start out in a chair if that's where you have to start.
Mm-hmm.
It can be and sometimes it's just taking that time out for certain things. Like, my husband loves kickboxing.
Okay.
It's a good outlet for him. It lets out your emotions. It lets out some of his issues with work, because he gets very stressed with work stuff, and he likes doing it. And we have bought him the stuff. He's got his gloves. He's got this monitor thing that he can watch. He even has a program that he can watch that we paid for a year, subscription, so he can actually do the workout with them. He's got the big, whatever kick thing that he has all the stuff.
He's got all the toys.
And then I tell him, go
do it.
Because he's really stressed out about. I'm like, go do some kickboxing.
Right.
Go knock the shit out of that thing.
Yeah.
And he will say, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah. Go.
You know,
Yep.
that, and it's little things. Like I
Yeah.
look at it even like your stuff.
Yeah.
Taking care of it doesn't take that long.
Right.
And you should take care of your stuff because you want it to last.
Right.
Like we
'Cause
have a
it's
very
cheaper to keep
expensive
it than-
grill
Yeah.
that my mother bought for him.
Right.
And I walk out there and I'm like, why is the cover not on it?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you letting it rain on it? Why are you? And I'll point it out and he goes and puts the cover on it. But you want to take care of your stuff so it
Yeah.
lasts you a long time. Well, this is your stuff.
Right.
This is your biggest stuff.
Right. Your brain, your body, your heart, all the things.
Exactly.
Yep. This is where it starts.
This is the most important stuff.
Yeah.
So if you need to put that cover over during the rain, put
Yeah.
the cover over. If you
Yeah.
need to take it off so it gets some sunlight, get some sunlight.
Yeah.
If you need to kick that thing to get the stress out, do that. So you have to, and that's where exercise comes into play because it's so important, because the exercising is what is going to get you to a better place.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to get all those other things started, all those
Yeah.
other things flowing, because when you start the exercise, you may not feel the greatest before you start, but how often are you like after the fact, you're like,
glad you
wow,
started.
I feel so much better today.
Right.
I have more energy. I'm ready to go. You know, all those
Yeah.
things.
I agree.
So next we have healthy diet to include hydration.
Yeah.
Those are some very important things. So I am not the best person to talk about diet, and one might look at me and assume it's because I eat very badly, but I don't eat. I don't eat a lot at all. I don't really like food.
Mm-hmm.
I have to force feed more than anything, which I think must be some kind of food problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't really like food. Ever since COVID, food tastes like shit to me.
Did you get COVID?
Yeah, like 5 times.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've had it like the first one. I think I even had it before it like was a thing. But
Right.
like diagnosed 5 times, and I had it so bad during that whole main cycle. I had it so bad that I slept sitting up in that recliner chair that's down here now for like 2 months.
Oh,
because I could not lay down. Like the
Yeah.
fluid in my lungs was there. I knew enough about medicine that I told my husband, if you take me to the hospital, I'll divorce you.
Oh.
Like, do not, because I knew they were intubating people.
Yeah.
And like, that is the worst thing to do. Like
Yeah.
80% of people die from intubation.
Right.
Do people know that? Did they tell people that?
Actually, I have a friend who had, I don't want to screw this up. I think his oxygen was at 50% and his organs were at 15, or vice versa,
Okay.
because of COVID. So he had started throwing up and everything, and went to the hospital, and they found a couple clots, and they're like, all right, so the first thing we're going to do is get rid of these clots, and then we'll see what happens next. And then they were like, okay, we want to intubate you. And he refused. So they
Smart
kicked.
man.
Yeah, he was like, I'm afraid I'll never wake up if you do that.
And that's a fact.
Yeah. So he stayed with us and got better. But man, that was some scary.
I probably should have been hospitalized.
Yeah.
I told my husband, you can take me to the hospital if I've been unconscious for 12 hours.
Okay.
Prior to that, you're not to take me.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like comatose. I
Right,
mean like
sleeping, like
sleeping, and I'm just not
up.
waking up.
Yeah.
Then you can take me to the hospital. But there are ways that you can handle it. Like I did a lot of steam showers and using Vicks and stuff to just clear my stuff and force myself to get cough things up, which the steam showers especially with like Vicks will kind of start clearing things out. I'm sure I had pneumonia during it. I had at least walking pneumonia.
Yeah.
I didn't have full pneumonia because it's very hard to come back from that. And the doctors wouldn't see you.
Right.
Nor would they give you any medications for anything.
Right.
I am pretty sure I had a couple of blood clot issues. I think I still do sometimes. But like one of the times my husband and I were driving over the hill from Reno to Sacramento. And while we were driving, we were going to a VA doctor appointment for Steve. And while we were going over the hill, all of a sudden out of nowhere, I was just sitting there and I couldn't shut my mouth. I was drooling. I couldn't talk correctly. I couldn't say anything. And my husband is sitting there like watching me going, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
And he said he thought about whether or not he should pull over.
Yeah.
Whether or not he needed to call 911. And so he just continued over the hill and he's like, when I get down to the bottom of the hill, I can take her to the hospital or something. And it took about 3 minutes or so. And I came out of it. And then he's like, we need to go to the hospital. I said, not in California. I said, you are not taking me to the hospital in California. So we waited. We went to his appointment. And then I was feeling fine. We went to eat, went to lunch, and I was fine. And we went home, back over the hill, no problem. Woke up the next morning. He had gone to work, like always. And I woke up in the morning and I knew something was wrong. Like I 1000% knew something was wrong. And I called him. I said, you need to come home. I need to go to the hospital. And he knew something was wrong if I said I'm going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Because I don't do that.
Right.
And when we got to the hospital, my pulse rate was in the 40s and 50s. My blood pressure was like in single digits. It was like, I think it was not fully in single digits. That was sarcasm, but it was like 60 over 50. Like it was bad. Like it was tanked. And I mean, they were like, oh shit, this is bad. Like something seriously wrong. So, turned out I was severely dehydrated and malnutritioned because I hadn't been eating. And I hadn't been eating because I don't like food. And I really don't like food anymore. Everything tastes, and at that time, everything tasted rotten.
That's what
it was absolutely rotten. It didn't matter.
It smells and tastes like rotten meat. And it was always his favorite things, coffee and
all my favorite stuff tasted like absolute shit.
Yeah,
and for the longest time, when I went to eat something, I would be like, and if I taste it, I had to Steve, is this
Make
still
sure it's right.
This good?
Yep. This morning, it's so funny. This morning, so Jesse normally sets up the coffee maker to start in the morning.
Right.
And I have not tested positive for COVID yet in my life. See this? But yeah, so the alarms went off and I didn't smell the coffee and I was like, did you not turn it on? And he's like, no. I was like, okay, I just wanted to make sure because I have a headache. So like,
right.
I'm like, I woke up with a really bad headache and my daughter woke up with a headache and a fever. And I'm like,
and you're like, oh shit, do we have COVID?
Yeah. It's like, one of these times it's going to be real and it's going to be mine and I'm going to have to get over it. And I'm going to have, and I don't know what to expect. And I know when I see it for real, it's,
honestly, like all the other times I had it were super easy. Like it was like, 48 hours, 72 hours. It was just the flu.
Yeah.
It was only this time that was like bad. 3 months of hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that one time to get you through. So the next couple times to get it, you're like, oh, it's
I have the antibiotics now, so it doesn't last as long. I don't know and they say it's all different strains, but whatever.
Yeah. And that's, understandable because, you get the flu and then the next year you get it a little differently and then whatever, you just.
But the importance of that is even when you're sick, you need to self-love. You still need to eat.
Yes.
You still need to hydrate.
Yes.
So you need to do those things when you're feeling good as much as when you're feeling bad.
Yeah. For sure.
Hydration is, you can go without food for so much longer than you can go without water.
Right.
And just to clarify with everyone, this
is not
water.
Yes.
It's coffee and a creamer.
Yep. Exactly.
I'm supposed to be learning how to do it with not these sugary creamers that I use, but I like my creamers.
It's a hard thing to let go of. Yeah.
It's going to be hard to do.
Yeah.
But you do have to hydrate. You have to hydrate. You have to hydrate.
The most important thing.
And exercise and hydration should go hand in hand.
Yes.
They kind of go together. And a healthy diet, and we've talked about diet a few times. And I will say to anybody out there, just withholding food from yourself is not dieting.
No. That's actually making things worse.
You actually have to have I'm a prime example of that. Like, I can't lose weight because of the fact that I don't really like food that much.
Right.
So I have to kind of force myself to eat, so I will forget to eat. Mm-hmm. And I also literally forget to eat. I don't get the hangries. I don't get the cravings.
Yeah.
I don't get the, I want this. I don't do that. Like, ever. Now, my husband will say, I want to go have this, and then it'll get stuck in my head. Now that's what I want.
Right.
And then when I go to eat, once I start eating, I go,
okay. Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Oh, I needed food. My
body doesn't work that way. It shuts down. It's like, hey, you're hungry and now you can't think. You don't want to talk and your body's not
well, and I think my body does that. I just don't
realize
feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it, because I will be like repeating the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Or reading something. I'll just be like, what am I doing again?
Yeah.
So you will lose that cognitive.
Yeah. You just don't realize it's happening.
You just don't realize it's because of not eating.
Yeah.
So it's really important for you to do those things and keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
But also rest and relaxation.
Yes.
That's a big part of it too. You got to get decent sleep.
Yeah.
And I am completely in disagreement with whoever it is that decided how much sleep we have to have, that you have to have an 8-hour day of sleep.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a thing because like everybody's sleep is different.
Well, yeah, everybody's sleep is different. And I think the average is like 4.5, 5 hours is what the average is. But supposedly some health person decided that
8 hours is right.
That 8 hours is what we need. Yeah. I'm probably going to say it's probably closer to the 5 to 6 is what we really actually need to have. Because I know for myself, I function much better with less than I feel really groggy and just like I want to just keep going back to bed once I've had 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get up at all then. I'm like, I'll just keep sleeping.
Yeah.
I'll just stay here.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a point where it becomes too much. For me, if I'm in bed for 8 hours, I'm sick.
Yeah.
100% I'm sick. There's no way I'm staying in bed for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And now what time I go to bed is a totally different animal than my husband. My husband goes to bed at between 8 and 10 every night.
Yeah.
I go to bed somewhere before morning.
Yeah.
I'm better about it now than I used to be. Like, I went to bed at midnight last night.
That's a start.
Yeah. So, excuse me, sir.
Jethro.
Excuse me, sir. My dog is acting like a goat, climbing on top of the couch over there because there are doggy treats on that table.
Left them there
and
last Friday.
And he's like,
"Hey, Mom." Let me get those for you. Last time I got them, you gave me one. See?
I see these over here. You need to give these to me.
Yep.
So, no, you're not going to have them. Sorry, buddy. Not right now anyway. But it's just really important for you to get the rest.
Yeah.
And relaxation also is a thing that you need to have, because sometimes you have to stop what you're doing and just relax about it.
Yeah.
Go sit in the hot tub if you have one, or you have access to one. Just sit on the couch, read a book. Yeah. For some people, relaxation is watching their favorite television show, or whatever. My husband, if he sits down to watch his favorite TV shows or something like that, he pretty much goes to sleep. He just,
I'm not asleep.
Yeah. And it's constantly, I wasn't sleeping. I'm like, you were snoring.
Yeah, exactly.
You were totally snoring. And it's funny because we'll go, and there's certain shows that we only watch together.
Right.
Okay. And I'll pull it up again. I'm like, are you going to stay awake this time? You going to stay awake during this one? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, I've watched it 4 times.
Yeah. I don't want to see it again.
I really don't want to watch this a 5th time. So can you just stay awake and watch this one? Or can we watch something I want to watch, because I know you're going to go to sleep anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't want to watch the same episode 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And I end up almost every time the show we like, I watch 4 or 5 episodes. So when he's sitting there going, well, you're on your phone, you're playing a game. I'm like, because I've seen this 4 times. Like, I don't care.
Because you destroyed it for me. Yep.
It's not a surprise anymore.
Yep.
What about you? What do you do for relaxation, or what do you suggest for people for relaxation?
Walking is really good. And I think it's highly underrated, and being that it's, cold outside, it's not something most people can do. But walking barefoot outside is really good for you, because it allows you to get
grounding.
Yes, it gets you to ground. But walking is good, especially in forests, not just in, suburbia with houses and things.
Not on concrete and asphalt, but like on the ground.
Yeah, or just sitting in the grass under a tree and just watching the world go by.
I have to treat mine with something to kill all these red ants, because we got really bad red ants on our property.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
that's not good.
We've been working on it, and just these anthills just keep popping up. Yeah. And it's really frustrating, because I love walking in the grass. I can't, because I will be, I'm allergic to venom. So I have a much worse reaction when I get bitten by something than someone else does. It doesn't mean I like going to, I'm not going to die from an ant bite.
It just means you're going to swell up real bad.
But I swell up really bad.
My poor son, when he was like 1, when we were potty training him, he was running around the house without any clothes on, and the neighbors came over and knocked on the door. So I opened the door, and when I opened the screen door, he ran outside naked.
Poor little guy.
And he fell into a red ant.
Oh no.
So it got
his winky and everything.
It got all the things. And I swear to you, till the time he was 6 or 7, he would scream whenever he's seen an ant. He didn't remember it. He didn't know why. He just lose his shit on his tippy toes, screaming at the top of his lungs. And finally I was like, dude, this is what happened to you when you were little. It's okay. Oh. I know.
You're like, this is why you're down. Yeah. This is why you're terrified. I'm that way with spiders. Even a good spider, people are like, oh, that's a good spider. I'm like, yeah. To me, every spider
has no good.
And this has
well, they have value, but
this has absolutely zero sense.
Okay.
Because there's no way possible, let alone is there any factual realm to it, or it's all in here. It's all in my head. But to me, every spider is carrying a .357 Magnum.
Okay.
And is asking me if I feel lucky.
Okay.
Do you, punk?
Why?
Because I almost lost my arm over a spider bite.
Okay.
I got a spider bite that was so bad. The doctor pretty much assumed it was a black widow.
Mhm.
We didn't have the spider, but it started tracing up my arm. And by the time, and it was within one day, it had gone from a little tiny spider bite right here on my arm to all the way up. And I went to my doctor the very next day, and we circled it so we knew where
Yeah.
it started. And then we circled it again, and we showed her the progression. And I didn't have an appointment. I just called, and she said, "Stop by and let me just take a look at it." And the nurse took a look at it, and she's like, "The doctor wants you in a room." And I had been going to this doctor for such a long time. Like, I knew him really well and everything. And he walks in and he just takes my arm, looks at it, walks out, doesn't say hi. Normally he comes in and says hi. And he's the type of dude that he wears Birkenstocks and jeans.
Right.
You know, he was a really down to earth kind of doc. And he comes in, he looks at it, puts it down, leaves, comes back in, and he comes in with a couple of his interns, and they're looking at it and they're moving my arm, and my arm hurt so bad. Like it was so bad, and it was turning to sepsis or cellulitis. I mean, and which is the first stage before sepsis. It was bad. Now, I had been going to this doctor for over a decade, and he's seen my son. He's done lots of other things. In fact, asked me out to date a few times before he met his girlfriend and wife, and yada yada. I was single, and you know, it was fine. I declined, which I'm really happy for, because he ended up in prison later.
Okay.
Opioids.
Okay.
And too many prescriptions. He actually became involved in a opioid ring. Sadly. Great guy though. I mean, really good doctor. Never had a problem giving you pain pills. But in fact, it was funny because like I still had a bottle of oxycodone or whatever that I had from him. And I think I just recently finished the last pill.
Oh, man.
Because he gave me such a huge bottle. He's been in prison for a decade.
Oh, man.
And I still had pills from him because I just don't take them.
Right.
Like I took like micro doses of it, you know, like one pill cut into 4 pieces. That's what I would take. So I don't know how these people do it with the whole, you know, 4 or 5. You're insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he actually took me to the hospital himself in his Porsche. And I think he didn't keep the Porsche. Just gonna say. And he had his own practice. That's what's so sad. Like he had built up to have his own practice and everything else. But anyway, it has nothing to do with this. But I was so injured. It took me weeks. They ended up having to put a PICC line in for medications.
Yeah.
I had to go to the cancer center for like a month to have medications after I was released from the hospital after a week. Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah.
But I'm so allergic to venom.
Yeah.
So I can't do some of those things. I have to keep those things in mind. And poison ivy, poison oak act the same way because it's poison. And my body reacts very badly to any of that stuff. So I have to be very careful with what's out in the woods and stuff like that. But I love nature.
Yeah.
And
so you're going to stick with nature trails.
I'm the type that would go out and find that nature trail. So a beautiful, great story I have for relaxing in nature. I love to write. You know that. I don't know if somebody's knocking at our door or whatever, but I love to write. So when I was younger, I really loved to write. So my dad knew I used to like to walk out. Delivery. My dad used to watch me go out we lived in Lake Tahoe, and my dad's house was right off of Mount Talek and the meadow. And I would go out there and sit on this big log and take my laptop, and I would write until my laptop would die, or I'd take a journal and go out there with a pen. And I just like made myself this little seat out of all of natural things. Now I did put a chemical treatment on the wood, that big tree log, to try to keep the bugs off of it somewhat. And one day I went out there, and my dad had run an extension cord under the ground to the log, and it just popped out of the log, so I could plug my computer in.
Yeah,
like that was so thoughtful. He didn't say anything. He didn't tell me about it. I just found it, and then I saw it, and it was underneath all the debris that California doesn't let you clean up. My dad got a huge fine one time for cleaning up the pine needles, and got a huge fine over it. So it is a thing. But anyway, you find a place that is best for you to relax, and I look at it like when it comes to relaxing or that type of. Hey, stop your barking, please. That's enough. Sorry, there was a delivery person at the door, and I appreciate that they rang the doorbell when there's a sign on it that says recording in progress, not to knock on the door. But apparently they can't read. You can deliver boxes without having to read, I guess. But anyway, find something that helps you relax, but it's really a recharge.
Right.
You need this as a place that can, like, a reset, recharge yourself, mind, body, soul, spirit type of thing. You just need a place that you can just really come into one again.
Yeah.
What do you do for not the rest part, but the relaxation part? Besides the walking in the grass and in the woods,
there's meditation. I really honestly like history, but not like your generic world history book type stuff. So I like to go in, and I like people. So I like to go into different areas that are smaller.
What's wrong with her?
I know. But I like
going into a museum and stuff.
No, going into a small town and finding a main street and talk. Like, you sit down and you have a cup of coffee and you're like, okay, so tell me
talk to old Tom down there. Yeah,
tell me the random story about this. And you always get the funniest, weirdest stories, and there's just so much fun in that. So I just kind of like. I
love the idea of going to random old towns and going to their main street and finding that old guy who sits.
Oh man, they have the good stories.
He's in every movie,
right? Yes, absolutely.
He's sitting on that bench whittling with his knife and making whatever he's making, and you can just go pop a squat with that guy and say, "Hey, old Frank, what's happening? What's going on?" I bet they have some of the greatest stories.
Oh yeah.
But that's a cool idea, going to old places and talking to people, getting to hear their history.
Yes. Yep. I like to hear just different people's stories, because you read the big summarized version of an event that happened, but you don't always get to hear the personal aspects of it, or how it impacted the town.
Not that this is on a relaxation topic, but it is talking about history and actually meeting and talking to somebody. I was at a conference in Reno, and it was for the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And we had a Holocaust survivor there that was just shy of 100 years old at the time. I think he's passed away now, because he'd probably be about 107, 108 or something like that. But it was so cool to listen to him talk And I
Yes.
don't mean cool about what he went through,
Right.
but it was
Their
so
views of life.
yeah. How did you go through that? Because we all deal with something.
Yes.
We all have that PTSD from things.
Yep.
And I believe he was the only survivor of his family.
Mm.
So he watched them take his mother, his father, his siblings, and he ended up becoming somewhat useful somehow, running errands or whatever. The girls were treated way worse, he said, because they considered girls like useless,
Mhm.
where the boys could be like errand boys and fetch me this and do that. And so he did things to survive, but he also snuck food to other inmates,
Mhm.
snuck bread to people. He did a lot of stuff to help.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stories you hear a lot of those type of stories,
Right.
but hearing them directly from someone who's like, I every single day was, am I going to live through the day? Not
Right.
because I'm hungry, because he said he was well fed.
Right.
But because, am I going to get caught today?
Right.
Sneaking this food to these other people?
Yep.
I mean, like, because again, he was helpful and he was given jobs and a task to do, but at the end of the night, he still slept in the chambers and the barracks where the rest of the people were. So when he went back to there at night, he was sneaking food and sneaking things, even a book,
Right.
like something for someone to read. And one was a journal. He snuck a blank notebook thing and a pen, because somebody in there was like, I really just want to write.
Yeah.
And then they had all, of course, came up with places to hide this stuff. They never hid any of the food because the food was eaten very quickly, but you had to hide the notebook and the pen, because if you were caught with it and they came in and just, ripped up their rooms all the time, or their barracks or whatever all the time. So you had to hide it in places that they just couldn't get into or couldn't see easily.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that, and him talking about the resilience of the human mind and the human body and how they overcome it. Like, I've had the experience of having several really amazing conversations with POWs and what they went through mentally, not just the physical part of it, but the mental part of it, to overcome what they were going through, to still come out on the other side.
Yeah. And I think that is it. Physically, is that not, but just how much you learn and how much you get to connect with somebody.
Is that relaxing? Not necessarily,
but it changes who you are. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you look at the world. And that's why I really enjoy it. So I guess I shouldn't say that's relaxing. I just enjoy connecting with people.
Well,
on
it
a
also
deeper
makes
level.
you evaluate the things that you take for granted.
Right. Or don't even, all the things.
Because when you have those conversations with people that are that have gone through so much more, it certainly puts into perspective when you're like, oh man, I have blah blah blah, and you're like, wait a minute,
Yep.
I don't have anything,
I
don't have anything to be whining and complaining about.
But
again, I have said it many times over the years that your worst shouldn't be evaluated based on someone else's worst.
Right.
Because it's your own life experience. Your best also should not be evaluated based on somebody else's experiences. And that's a whole nother topic. One of these days, I really, really want to do a topic. Actually, we should do it very soon because it's a hot topic right now. But the influencers.
Yeah.
I am now, I don't know why, but like I never bought into the influencer thing to begin with. I'm cold. But like every single video that I saw on TikTok or YouTube or whatever that are these influencers. I was like, you're full of shit.
Right.
That's filters, and you're just full of shit. Like, I don't buy into any of what you're selling.
Right.
I think it's all fake. It's all full of shit. You don't have those cars. You don't have you don't have the opulence you're trying to put out, because people with that don't do that.
Right.
I look at it like my dad had a lot of money.
Right.
You would never known it.
Right.
Because he didn't shove it in people's faces. There are people that have money that they don't necessarily shove it in your face, but they are driving the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis and the whatnots, and they have the fancy, expensive house and stuff like that. But they don't do videos of themselves with it.
Right.
They just don't do that. So I never bought into that crap. Even celebrities, like when they were doing the check out my crib show or whatever, those are very narcissistic people, first of all. And most of those shows pay you to be able to show your stuff. And a lot of celebrities out there, they've spent all their money having all these things, and they have to take on whatever is offered to them because they need to pay for that stuff.
Right.
So I don't look at it the same way. Oops. But most people just don't brag about that stuff unless you really don't have it. It's kind of like in the military. The person is probably never been to combat if they're really just talking about it at a bar to some girl or special forces. Right. You're like, yeah. The first
rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah. So as soon as you hear someone talking about Fight Club, you're like, full of shit. Yeah. I already know you're full of shit. So yeah. So anyway,
Yep. So yeah, rest and relaxation. Mm-hmm.
Emotional self-care. Mm-hmm. Now we did a whole show on journaling.
We did.
So we're going to kind of skip over the journaling, but journaling is really good. Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing I'll say. It really
helps with my, with growth. And
yeah.
For sure.
And there's a lot of different ways of journaling.
Yes.
And at some point here, we are going to do two different ones. We're going to do letter to my younger self, and we're going to do a letter to my older self.
Yeah.
We're going to go over it as we're doing it, but we're not necessarily going to read it out loud to the audience. I would love to be that vulnerable.
I'm just not that brave.
And yeah, I would love to be. I know this. If we were writing it with the caveat that we were going to read it,
it would be a different letter.
It would be a different letter.
Yeah.
So we might write two.
Yeah.
And then,
there's always
I would share it with you probably.
Right.
But I would not be able to share it publicly because there's a lot of things in there I don't think I would be able to get through.
Right.
But I don't know that I could set myself out that far. And that's where I know when influencers are full of shit, because it's all crap when they're letting all the beans out, because they're probably beans they never bought. But it is what it is. So I can't even read that.
Mindfulness and meditation.
Oh, mindfulness and meditation, which is different from a relaxation, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so explain.
Mindfulness is more of being aware of what's going on,
or then I'm never there.
Where it's where things are coming from.
Okay.
So recognizing why these emotions are coming up, or recognizing I'm feeling this way, or taking the time to be in the moment that you're in. So like if we were sitting in this moment, taking a moment and letting yourself feel the desk, listen to the sounds, sit, feel the chair. Just all the little things are a quick way to be mindful of that chair.
Well, even
in the moment,
even like when you're in the moment, maybe which for me is very difficult,
right?
Of not doing something else while doing it,
right? And that's
like playing your phone, playing a game,
and that is exactly where because there's so many distractions. Most people don't take the time to just let themselves
be in the moment.
And that's why I mentioned the casual ways to just let me feel this desk. Let me feel what my shirt feels, because those are simple triggers versus like, oh, I need to see all the colors around me and I need to look at hear all the people and listen to the conversation in depth. Most people, because of technology, I would say, I'm going to blame, don't really have it takes practice to get to the point where you can go, okay, I'm fully in this moment. So taking the little steps. Something that I learned to do with like my oldest daughter, because she would have panic attacks, is to just tell her, hey, real quick, count the windows in the room. How many windows are there? How many things do you see that are yellow? How many circles do you see? And just give yourself some random questions that puts you back in your body.
Well, I know, like when I've gone to an event or something where it's overwhelming and very stressful, I have done that where I've gone in the bath, and it's not even like consciously gone and done it. I've gone to take myself to the bathroom to get away from it for a minute, and then I catch myself, if it's like a marbly tile,
you got to
looking for the designs in it.
Do you find people?
I find people. I find dragons. I find animals. And then I'll be like, I've been in here for 15 minutes, like looking at the car, or if it's something that's very step repeat type thing, I count them.
Yeah.
And it's not like I don't do it everywhere. I don't do it every time. So it's not necessarily an OCD thing, but it's a get my mind reset thing.
Right.
And I didn't even know I did it until I was reading something about it one time. And I was like, oh, I kind of do that. I really love the ones that are where I can find things in it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, if I go into one and it's a step repeat type of thing, like it's circles or dots or whatever, then I have a real problem when it's off balance. And it's there, like that's not
now I can't.
That's not square.
It.
Yeah.
I need to unsee that.
Now, do you find yourself ever? Because this is a weird thing. I will find myself specifically going into the same stall if I'm out of place.
Yeah, that has to happen.
But I guess there's because I have a slight OCD,
right?
But it's not so severe that I can't function from it. But yeah, that's one of those, going into the same stall. But I do some of those reset things so that I can get reconnected to the event that I'm at or the function or whatever it is that I'm doing. I need to kind of reset myself. And I just find myself, I go outside, take a little walk. And then quite often you might find somebody to talk to that like calms the whole thing. And I'm talking about like if it's more stressful.
Yeah.
But a small event can be stressful.
Yes.
And I look at my dogs when it's a very stressful day, that even to them that's something that even to them is like the inaugural ball that we went to. Charlie just walked around with me.
Yeah.
Half the time she was asleep under the table or laying under the table. And then she would walk with me and I'd take her outside and it was super cold.
Yeah.
But by the end of the day, the end of the night, she was exhausted. And that's a stress thing. And we get exhausted, from stress. So anyway, I have Donna says, I hear y'all. there's a procedure that goes like this. Tell me 5 things you can see,
Yep.
4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can touch.
Yes. Yep.
And by the time you get to 1, usually it passes.
Yep.
So like if you're, that's a great way.
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
stressed, because you look around and
Yeah.
it gets you mindful of your environment.
Yeah.
It gets you more grounded again.
Just get
And it
yourself in
helps
that moment.
yourself
It's
calm a
important.
little
Yeah.
bit. And you can use this for stress as well as like a mental reset.
Yeah.
If you're angry, if you're hurt about something,
Yeah.
you can use these steps to like be mindful and
Yeah.
reset your equilibrium, so to speak.
Yeah. So then going from that to like resetting yourself back to your body and into the situation, and then going to, if you're feeling those feelings, okay, now I'm feeling this. What is that feeling and why? Now, I would like your opinion. I really hate when people say, or I hate the word anger. Because I feel like anger is a reaction feeling versus a feeling. So when someone gets to the point where they are angry, they've typically been hurt, or they feel like there's other things that build up that. So when you get to that angry point, right, it's not, that's when that timeout, recentering yourself and then going, okay, so this is what I'm actually feeling.
Right.
Whether it's shame, loss, embarrassment, hurt, whatever it is, and then building from that. Now, where is that feeling coming from?
Right.
And what specifically is driving that? And then then you slowly walk it back.
Well, I mean, like anger is a real true feeling.
I hate that.
Yeah,
I do, but
but it is a real feeling.
It's a real feeling on the books.
but you have to dive deeper as to where it came from.
Yeah.
Because most people are not just like Karen. Let's go with
Karen.
Let's go with
about
Karen.
Friday.
She didn't just start out like this.
Right.
She didn't start out from the womb a hateful, mean person.
Right.
She didn't come out biting her mother.
Right.
She wasn't, she's not a demon or whatever. So something over time,
there's feelings in there.
Something over time has caused her to be an angry,
to be reactive
person.
to people and things going on.
Anger is a true feeling or action. I think anger is more of an action than it is a feeling.
Yeah.
But it is considered a feeling.
Yeah.
But I think there's a driving force to that.
Yeah.
And
there's things under
you're hurt.
Yep. It's your body saying, hey, address this.
Yeah. This is the real problem.
Yep.
And how you're reacting, or you're verbally or physically doing an angry motion or hateful movement. Because hate is a feeling too.
Right.
Like you can hate something, and I hate the word hate.
I do too.
I also I hate the word hate. I hate the word anger because, but they are emotions. They are things that you feel.
Yeah.
So when you feel those, you should try to be mindful.
Yep.
Do the reset and think about why do you feel this way?
Yep.
Why are
driving it?
And if it's at a person,
yeah,
maybe evaluate that and think about it before you call them, go see them, and figure out what is within you that you have control over to change.
Yeah.
And how do you talk to them to help them have control over how they can
respond, how they're going to respond
and see you and possibly change as well.
Exactly.
Because it could be a misunderstanding. It could be a misconception. It could be a misalignment. It could be a misspeak. Like they could have, or an overstep.
Yep.
An overstep and overreach. And if you have what I think is most important is that you have an understanding with yourself as well as the person that you're going to go talk to, and how you start those conversations. Like, it's really difficult to say the "we need to talk" thing because
Right.
you immediately put that other person
On the
in the
defense.
defense.
Yep.
We need to talk is automatically you already feel like you've done something
Mhm.
that is you're going to be attacked for.
Yeah.
So thinking about that before you approach it
Yep.
is a helpful thing to do.
Mhm.
Is it always easy? No.
See, and you know, it's funny. The thing that just popped in my head is from that perspective and from our conversation. You're gonna kill me because I'm gonna run us in a circle right now. We were saying we need to talk in our past history, and
Mhm.
not you and me directly, just in general, in people's lives. When someone approaches someone and says we need to talk, it's because they have bad news.
Right.
So the person who's going on the defense is going on the defense because of past history experiences.
Well, they're going into protective mode.
Exactly, because of
they're going to protect themselves from hurt
I would like
or anger.
If we could remember back to the first time we ever heard we need to talk, we probably did not go into that like, okay, like we weren't angry or defensive at that point because we were like, okay, we're doing something exciting. Maybe but it wasn't a bad situation. But from that point on, it became that.
It was the ant bite all over your body.
Exactly.
And you didn't know why.
Yeah.
But it's true because it's everything is a learned behavior.
Yes.
And it's learned from response. I mean, you look at so I watched it just came up by accident last night. And it was called the Willis Clan or the Willis something or other.
Okay.
And it was a family. Now, first of all, I'm a judgy bitch.
Uh-oh.
I will admit that. So when I see these influencers come across my screen,
Mhm.
I'm immediately like, it's bullshit.
Right.
I already say that there's something wrong there. When Susan Smith was doing her little speech with the people and bring my babies back and blah, blah, blah. I said, that bitch killed her kids, like right out the gate. Like I was like, bullshit. She killed her kids. So I tend to not have a blinders on type of thing. So as soon as the show started, talking about their, they were a singing family.
Okay.
Just shy of Nashville where they lived. And they had like 12 kids. And I'm like, and it was something that just popped up on my YouTube.
Yeah.
And it started, and it wasn't like anybody I've ever watched before. So I had no idea that hers were about crime and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was just like a documentary about this family. So I'm like, yeah, he was raping his daughters. He was doing something. I guess we're not supposed to say the R word. Oh. He was essaying his daughters. It's the first thing I said when I saw his picture.
Yeah.
And this was about a family singing trio, or I can't say trio because it was 12 of them, but it was a family singing group.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to my mind when they first popped up his picture on there, I was like, yeah, he sexually assaulted his daughters, like immediately. And that's exactly what it was. Like, that's what ended up happening. He ended up in prison. He's in jail now or whatever, serving the rest of his life in prison. And his daughters and sons have to heal from all of that. But it was like, the videos of them performing, and they had a TLC TV show.
Okay.
They had a TV show on some other network. Like they had TV shows about their singing and nobody knew because they were so good about putting that face on and performing that when people figured things out, they were excommunicated as friends. The kids were so good about hiding. Mm-hmm. No. And so like anytime I see now, that was the first start of influencing, was when they did TV shows.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's like you can do one.
Right.
You know, just put cameras up and the minute I see a family filming their family, their kids, I immediately go, something bad here. This you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know, you should never be trying to get famous off your children. Yeah. I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
These women who are putting their little girls on, doing makeup and doing bullshit and dancing and wearing the little tutus and stuff all over their screens. I'm like, you know, and there's one particular lady out there. She has a little girl and they're TikTok famous. I don't remember. She has like 3-4 million followers.
Oh, man.
And it has to be the mom's TikTok, but it's the little girl. And the stuff she has her do, like one video, I mean, it's disgusting. One video, I think she's 3 or 4. Now she's like 6 or 7. But when they started, she was like 3 or 4 or something like that. One of their most viewed videos is her eating a banana. Now tell me that's not disgusting.
Yeah.
Because you know who's watching.
Right.
You know who 90% of their followers are disgusting, creepy men.
Right.
And they're watching a 4-year-old eat a banana. And, what do you think?
Right.
Why do you think that's your most viewed video?
Right. Yeah.
You know, maybe don't do that to your daughter. So imagine what she's going to go through when she gets older.
Mm-hmm.
Those innocent things, like we just talked about, let's have a talk was never a problem till it became a problem.
Right.
A banana for her is probably not going to be a problem till it becomes a problem.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
When she gets older,
middle school or
and she realizes what people perceive a banana as, you know, and, you know, like I cannot eat a banana.
Right.
I cut up a banana and I can eat it with a fork. A banana, and then I can eat a banana, or I put it in my cereal or whatever. But that's how I do it. Anyway, our time is up, people. Come and see us Monday through Friday, 10 to 11:30. We're a little bit shy of our time because we started like 5 minutes late, but we're gonna end on time, or sort of on time, because we're a minute late now. So remember to like, subscribe, and follow all of our channel. All of our stuff is Girl Talks, GURLTAUX, and we will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.